Greetings, geeks, and welcome to episode number 60 of Geeking Off the Page. I'm Mike, and with me is...
I'm Trevor. And yeah, you heard that right, 60. Like, this podcast is almost old, almost has less episodes if they were years to be a senior citizen and collect Social Security.
We can almost retire.
No, we can't.
That's
No,
true.
I wish we could, but we can't. So a lot has happened this week. Some good, some bad, some sad. Um, I think I'm going to immediately just get the sad right out of the way. So for anyone who was in the 90s, especially like when we were at Sheridan, Batman the animated series, hit the airwaves. And I think what made Batman the animated series so successful was the voice acting of Kevin Conroy. He was the voice of Bruce Wayne in Batman, and he was one of the first people that used two distinct voices when in either persona. And he has been Batman in so many things since then.
Yeah.
And honestly, in my opinion, he is the best Batman of all the people who've been Batman since time began. He is, to me, like the top of the bar for Batman. Just
it's his voice with the Bruce Timm animated model was priceless. Now, if you stuck his voice, Kevin Conroy's voice, on a Neil Adams Batman, I think that would be like,
yeah. Now, thing is, he's actually
be end all.
In an episode of Batwoman, he actually played Bruce Wayne from like Earth 99. So he actually got to do a live action version of being Bruce Wayne, and he pulled it off so amazingly.
Was that the Crisis on Infinite Earth?
Crisis on Infinite Earth. But just he, like, I got to meet him at a convention in Philadelphia, and I mean, this guy could read a phone book and everyone would just sit down and happily sit like, crisscross applesauce and just listen to him read off names and phone numbers. He had one of those voices that just captivated you. And when I heard earlier this week that, on November 10th that he passed away, it was just like, he was only 66, but, tragically cancer kind of, and like intestinal cancer took him from us. And it was, I mean, that whole day I was just kind of sad. I mean, this was a major part of our time at Sheridan, was Batman the animated series and hearing Kevin Conroy as Batman. And then, when you look up his filmography and all the different times he's been Batman or Bruce Wayne, or even doing narrator, he was in like the movie Yoga Hosers as a Canadian Batman.
Just buying a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, it was just it's
with
a huge
Robin.
loss. It really is.
Yeah, I know.
It's a huge loss that I think it's going to be very difficult to recover from. Because, well, I mean, I've heard all the other voice actors who've done Batman, like on Brave and the Bold and stuff like that, and it's just not the same. It's it's like reaching for the stars with your feet stuck in concrete. You're not going to reach those heights that he did, and he'll be sorely missed.
And just what a great person he was. There's that story of he was working in the soup kitchen, and it's like, wait a second, Batman's serving a soup. It's like, get out of here. Batman's not serving it. And so he said, I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman. And then apparently everybody broke out into an applause.
Yeah, I mean, I would. He went to Juilliard and he roomed with Robin Williams. I mean, and he was in the same group as Williams and Kelsey Grammer. I mean, the guy's done a lot, and yeah. So yeah, and one of the funniest things was so Mark Hamill, gave a great Twitter eulogy of Kevin Conroy, and he and there was a question long ago. Someone said, like, regarding his willingness to be involved in any sort of Batman project. And he said, whenever they offer him roles, his first question was, is Kevin doing it? Regardless if he's read the script or been given a synopsis of what they wanted him to do as Joker, if Kevin's doing it, he'll automatically say yes. And I think that's just a, it's a sign of just how many lives he's touched. And yeah, I'm it's going to be hard to watch anything Batman related going forward from here without, Kevin Conroy being the voice. So
Yeah, he was a good Batman.
the best. All right, all right. So let's get into sad mode. I know that Troy's going to be adding some stuff to this, and possibly Gavin as well. Where are they on episode 60, by the way? Uh,
Nobody
I
knows.
think people should send in some hate mail.
On Thursday, November 10th, the world lost a true legend. An incredible actor, a remarkable human, and an all-around icon. The unmistakable voice of both Batman and Bruce Wayne. To a generation, Kevin Conroy is their Batman. And, like the equal loss of other legends of recent history, our David Bowies, our Robin Williams, our Carrie Fishers, the whole world is mourning at its loss. The following is a press release from DC Publicity dated November 11th, 2022. Kevin Conroy, preeminent voice of Batman, passes away at age 66. Actor Kevin Conroy, the most beloved voice of Batman in the animated history of the character, died Thursday at the age of 66 after a short battle with cancer. A noted stage, film, and television performer, Conroy rose to unparalleled voice acting fame as the title character of the landmark Batman the Animated Series from 1992 to 1996. He would establish never-before-broken records as the quintessential voice of Batman, bringing the superhero to animated life in nearly 60 different programs, including 15 films, highlighted by the acclaimed Batman the Mask of Phantasm, 15 animated series spanning nearly 400 episodes, and more than 100 hours of television, as well as 24 video games. Conroy was also featured as the live-action Bruce Wayne in the Arrowverse's 2019 to 2020 Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover event. Conroy, in recent years, was a notable fixture on the con circuit, greeting fans with the same warm and respect and enthusiasm they reserved for him. Kevin was far more than an actor, whom I had the pleasure of casting and directing. He was a dear friend for 30-plus years, whose kindness and generous spirit knew no boundaries, said Emmy Award-winning casting/dialogue director Andrea Romano. Kevin's warm heart, delighted deep laugh, and pure love of the life will be with me forever. Kevin was perfection, recalls Mark Hamill, who redefined the Joker playing opposite Conroy's Batman. He was one of my favorite people on the planet, and I loved him like a brother. He truly cared for the people around him. His decency shone through everything he did. Every time I saw him or spoke to him, my spirits were elevated. Born on November 30th, 1955, in Westbury, New York, and raised in Westport, Connecticut, Conroy began establishing himself in the acting community while under the tutelage of John Houseman in the Juilliard School, where he studied along the likes of Christopher Reeves, Francis Conroy, and his roommate, Robin Williams. Conroy began his career following his love of the theater, keeping him on stage in both New York and at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego. The actor received rave reviews for his starting performance in A Midsummer Night's Dream at the Public Theater, Eastern Standard on Broadway, Arthur Miller's The Last Yankee, and in the title role of Hamlet in the 1984 New York Shakespeare Festival. In addition, he performed in films and television, most notably in the mid-1980s, when he had recurring roles on Dynasty, Tour of Duty, and O'Hara. Successful runs on soap operas, Search for Tomorrow and Another World, and guest roles on popular series like Cheers, Murphy Brown, Spencer for Hire, and Matlock. But it's his incomparable, nuanced performance as the voice of Batman that put Conroy on the map and the fans' radar. when Batman the Animated Series debuted on September 5th, 1992. From that point on, Conroy would forever be linked to the Dark Knight in TV series like Batman Beyond and Justice League Unlimited, films ranging from Batman the Killing Joke and Batman Gotham Knights to Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero and Batman Mystery of the Batwoman, and more than 24 video games. Kevin was a brilliant actor, Hamill said. For several generations, he has been the definitive Batman. It was one of those perfect scenarios where they got the exact right guy for the exact right part, and the world was better for it. His rhythms and subtleties, tones and delivery, that all also helped inform my performance. He was the ideal partner. It was such a complimentary, creative experience. I couldn't have done it without him. He will always be my Batman. Kevin brought a light of him with him everywhere, said Paul Dini, producer of Batman the Animated Series. Whether in the recording booth giving it his all, or feeding first responders during 9/11, or making sure that every fan who ever waited for him had a moment with their Batman. A hero in every sense of the word. Irreplaceable. Eternal. Conroy is survived by his husband, Vaughn C. Williams, sister Tricia Conroy, and brother Tom Conroy. On a personal level, I must say that hearing of his passing has greatly affected me. Here it is several days later, and I am still trying to deal with the loss. In comparison to Bowie, Williams, and Fisher, I'm aware that this is just the beginning and that I'm due to deal with this emotional roller coaster and that the loss will be with me for years to come. However, having this outreach available to me might just help ease a bit of my struggle. In an episode of our podcast where the segment Defending Your Role had the subject of who is the best Batman, we all agreed that it would be unfair to put Kevin Conroy on this list because we all collectively knew that if anyone ended up getting Kevin as their Batman to defend, that they would automatically win just by saying his name. Now, social media is currently filled with tributes to Kevin and all of his work, and eventually within time they will fade. But the man himself will never be forgotten. His spirit lives on in his work and the impact it has had on all of our lives. Farewell, Kevin, and thank you for your talent.
So a couple weeks back, Michael happened to finish The Expanse. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to get together. And I just want your final opinion on The Expanse. Because you watched it because of our recommendation. What did you think?
True.
Mike? What did you?
I thought it was good. And that's all I got to say. It's good. No, just kidding. Like everybody's reviews, I agree with. The first 3 seasons are the high point. I don't think you can touch that as far as science fiction goes. I do think once it went to Amazon, it took a little bit of a dive, but also I guess the novels did as well. But it was still binge worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, when you binge 3 seasons in like a week, it's still good, right?
Oh yeah. It's again, The Expanse is one of those shows that if I could wipe it from my memory so I could watch it fresh, I absolutely would.
Yeah.
To me, The Expanse is intelligent science fiction grounded in reality. Unlike, say Star Wars or Star Trek, where they take a lot of like, oh, we have transporters, or oh, we have this. The Expanse was like, no, we're physics is.
Why do you have transporters? Because it costs too much to do a VFX of a shuttle landing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Whereas, these guys were like, we have the CGI, we could do transporters and all that, but like, no, let's make physics real. And it was one of the reasons why I like this show so much, because it was like they didn't shy away from things. They didn't shy away from things like inertia. Um, so
Oh,
yeah,
that's one. Yeah.
yeah,
Now I didn't like the way it ended because you can tell the story's not done. You can tell that's like, whoa, wrap it up. Even the
hmm
fact that I forget the name of that alien world where it shows the little girl whose brother dies and the weird
yeah, and
proto-molecule
the
dog brings it back to life, and
hmm
you essentially have a White Walker and season done. It's like,
yeah,
okay, if you knew you were going to end the season, none of that had to happen because you're not building on anything. Like, that's a pretty crappy season finale. As a cliffhanger for the next season, it's great. But to end
yeah,
it there, it's pretty weak.
yeah. It was hard when it ended like that. But I can see where they're keeping the door open just in case. Um, I kind of wish they had said no, we're going to end it, but that's fine. I mean, if they end up deciding, you know what, we're going to do a season 7, I'll watch it.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I'm not going to be like, no, I'm not going to watch that. Yes, I will watch it. Okay, so now that you've seen all 6 seasons, favorite character and why?
I'm gonna ask you first.
No, I want to hear yours.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Seasons 1 to 3.
No,
Well,
all 6 seasons.
I'm
Don't.
saying 1 to 3, I stay with Holden.
Okay.
Okay. End of the season, Amos.
See, I was Amos right from the get-go. From season 1 right through the end of season 6. Amos was he was the guy that I just felt he had a way of saying what needed to be said, but it also being very unflappable for the most part.
Yeah.
He was honestly, it was the type of character that if you were told, "Oh, all right, you're going to be out in space and on different worlds," I'd be like, I want him on my team because he's going to keep me from like crapping my pants every 5 minutes.
One of my favorite things is when Peaches joins the ship, where it's the whole little preamble. It's like, hey, Holden, remember you said you were going to kill me, right? When the Martians were coming on? You meant that, right? It's like, yeah, I meant that. But now you got my back, right? So no hard feelings, right? All right, we're good. And brings Peach to the ship. He's like, what the hell just happened? That is such a classic moment. I absolutely love it. And that's why after season 3, there was the switch, because I did like the whole idea of Holden being the good guy, the Mickey Mouse, trying to keep it together and do the right thing. And he
Mhm.
starts, going a little bit Breaking Bad.
Fraying at the
And
edges.
yeah, and Amos is looking to him to be his like moral support, and he sees he's starting to go off the hinges. But then afterwards, Holden is just kind of a straight character. And then Amos is the one who is, like you're saying, like
Yeah.
he's stating it as it
He's
is.
he's the rock. He's
Yeah.
the one that is you don't need to panic until Amos panics.
And I love how anytime he makes a friend, it's like, yeah, he's my best friend, or I'm not gonna let anybody hurt you. And he means it. And then
Mhm.
like with what was it? Season 4 or 5, the one on the planet,
Uh
where he's like, I told you I was never gonna lie to you, right? Yeah. Well, if you get in my way, I'm going through you.
yeah,
He
it's
didn't lie.
he didn't. He if he said something was a way it was going to be, that was the way it was going to be, and that was one of the nice. And it was funny because I mean, Amos is one of the. There was only like 4 characters that went all the way through all 6 seasons, and it was Holden, Amos. Oh God, what's her name? Oh, she's really fit my mind. Christian and uh I lost the name. Naomi. They were the only 4 characters that went through all 6 seasons together.
Yeah. And the thing is, Alex was supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I sent something into the chat. It's like, what the hell? Alex died? Like, that came out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
then you look into the things that happened behind the scenes and whatever allegations, and being quickly rewritten out of the series.
That was a quick. You could tell that was a last minute, like, oops, oh shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's it's, I don't know. The Expanse is the kind of show that when people start talking about doing like a remake or redo of Babylon 5, I'm like, you don't need to. We already have the Expanse.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I can see them wanting to redo Babylon 5 because you had strong characters and nice diverse alien cast and a nice big huge storyline. But I'm like, we've already got it with the Expanse. The Expanse is almost like the modern version of Babylon 5 in terms of storytelling and setting. So yeah, when I keep hearing, people like, "Ooh, hope they're going to redo Babylon 5." I'm just like, "No, we don't need it. We got something better."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it had everything as far as the world building and the characters and not knowing where things are going. I've mentioned this multiple times, but the fact that all the tropes are there. Like, it has the whole palette of everything a science fiction needs to be. That kind of operatic drama it needs to be. Like, the characters are there, everything's there. And it should be a paint by numbers where like, I know what's going to happen.
You're like,
but I didn't.
that to there. And it's almost like someone at the last second
know.
went, let's switch stuff around. And you're like, oh shit.
But it still follows the tropes.
It does.
It's like it all holds up, but I still don't know.
You feel like you're on almost like shaky ground because you know that even though they're following the trope, shit can happen.
Yeah.
And change things up. And you're like, oh God, what happened? No. There were countless times where, after it came out on streaming, where I would go back and watch an episode because I'm like, where was the pivot point? It's like, oh, there it was. Okay, yeah, okay. Now that makes sense. Now there's the foreshadowing that I should have caught the first time.
Yeah. There's that whole segment, what's the big ship? Behemoth, right? And first of all, when Amos shows up and Naomi's like, oh, it's okay, give him your gun. It's fine. I know everybody. And then they start being dicks. It's like, I'm going to need that back. That was such a great line. Delivered so casually.
I'm going to need that back. And it was just like, I don't think they're going to give it. Okay.
It was so good.
Yeah. So.
And then the scene with Alex and Gunny, where the reporter's giving the spiel about what's going on, and the Martians are coming in to wipe everybody out, and Gunny realizes, wait, these are my friends I'm actually firing on. That moment, I had no idea what was going to happen. That was like a Quentin Tarantino Mexican standoff.
Yeah, like
it's like anybody could die at this point. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's why I would have to say, I think in the last decade of TV shows on air, The Expanse is probably in my top 5 in terms of just sheer writing. Like just I mean, the writing staff on The Expanse, just great. Like you could tell they loved what they were doing. They did plenty of research. They listened to the experts who came in and talked about, oh, this would happen this way and this would happen this way, and they're like, we're going to put that into the show. It just made it such an enjoyable show to watch.
Yeah, and even the bad episodes were a solid 8 or 9 out of 10.
Yeah, that's just it. Like their great episodes were like an 11 out of 10, but their bad episodes were still like 8.5.
Yeah.
I mean, and there wasn't, what was nice is even through 6 seasons, there weren't episodes that you could say this entire episode was nothing but filler. Every episode counted to either the story of a couple of episodes, the story of the season, or the story of the whole show, which was nice. I mean, because there's so many other shows where they're like, this is a filler episode. Let's just, we got to get an episode in. Let's just, the day in the life of a bug sort of bullshit. But The Expanse doesn't have that. Every episode matters in some way or another.
Yeah, which is why I brought all this stuff up in the like a sci-fi chat we have at work, and everybody who's a fan of it said it's like, now you got to read the books to see how it properly ends, and that's something I have to do now.
Now you have a new assignment.
Yes.
So yeah. So I'm glad we got you convinced to watch it.
Me too.
Because yeah, it to me, The Expanse is one of those shows that I don't think enough people have seen it, but if that ever happens and enough people do watch it, it will definitely make its way into social consciousness. And, we will use quotes from the show. And, when you think, oh, what about, how would this happen? It's like, well, they did something like that in The Expanse. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny how these kind of things, like something so good, can fall under the radar and get missed. I mean, it happened with Firefly, with getting canceled in the first season, but something like this that lasted 6 seasons.
I
And
think,
someone who's a fanboy like me, it was sort of on the radar, but it was kind of a blip to the outside. It's
yeah,
like,
because I honestly, I mean, there was so much going on. I remember when it first started, and they were at like, I think episode 3 or episode 4. And I was just flipping through the channels, and I happened to catch like the last 10-15 minutes of like the 4th episode. And I was like, wait, well, what is this? I was like, oh, The Expanse. And so I remember going online and hunting down and looking for show times of when they would do like reruns. And I was like, oh, it's on that night at like 3 a.m. So I'll set the DVR there. And so I caught up. Like, luckily within that week, I was able to get episodes 1, 2, and 3. And then when episode 5 came out, they played episode 4 right before it. So I was able to catch 4, like basically the beginning of 4 right at the point where I caught it, and then right into episode 5. And I was like, thank God I caught this, because if I jumped in like towards the end of the first season, I would have been like, either there's no way I can catch up, or, destroy my brain trying to find ways of getting that because there weren't a lot of summer reruns of this show, which made it tough. Like, while it was, episodes were airing brand new, they were airing back episodes usually at weird times. And, with the using a DVR, I was able to get those episodes and catch up. But yeah, that's why some of the seasons, I think season 3 was really difficult, because they weren't doing that. So you either caught it when they showed it, or scoured the internet looking for TV schedules to catch the episode, hopefully before all the other episodes came out. So yeah, it was tough. But I'm glad I did. So I wouldn't do that for most shows. So yeah.
so anyone listening who hasn't seen it, take Trevor's advice, take John Scallan's advice, take my advice, and watch The Expanse.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
It is 100% worth it. All right, so we have some other things. So we're gonna address the white elephant in the room. So this week, on like actually yesterday, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever came out. I have not had the opportunity to see it, because I'm going to go see it with my wife next week. Michael has not seen it yet. There are some intelligent things we can talk about it based on, some of the trailers we saw, and some of the various reports. First off, I've heard a lot of backlash of people saying they don't like Namor, the way he looks. And I'm going to address that right now. So the character of Namor came out a long, long time ago. And in fact, I'll even get the year. So Namor came out in, when it was original published date, 1939. So Namor has undergone a couple of changes, most notably in the 60s, where they ended up kind of changing his look to kind of look like a very pale Leonard Nimoy haircut, the green chainmail Speedo, and little wings on his ankles. And that's the way they've kept him for a long time, right through like for Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Modern Age. He really hasn't changed his look pretty much at all. And
right towards the end with the Illuminati comics, they gave him the black vest, and
they finally figured he needs other clothes than the green Speedo, the green chainmail Speedos.
I don't think he needed anything else other than the Speedos.
No.
But
I've heard a lot of backlash online of people like, oh, he's they whitewashed him. He's always been whitewashed. He's been basically so pale, albinos are like, man, he should maybe go out in the sun for a little bit.
In fact, they didn't whitewash him at all.
No, if anything, they, the actor who portrayed him, Tenok, I think his name is, he learned the Mayan language for the role, as well as learning how to swim. So they pulled in some some Central America sort of vibe into him as well, and I think that helps the character. You
I
know,
think it ruins the character, in my opinion, because if you go back to the history of the character, Namor is Roman backwards, and he's supposed to be Atlantean, and that comes from ancient Athens and Greece. So, if anything, it should be someone from that heritage, from that era, that that vibe is what Namor is supposed to be.
but
So
the thing is,
you can
he's the
but
son of a human sea captain and a princess of Atlantis. He's not full Atlantean. He's half human. He's also one of the very first mutants.
yeah, but it's supposed to be from that era. No, he should look like Spock. It should be Spock with wings on his ankles, as far as I'm concerned.
See, I disagree. I would look at it as, when Namor was supposed to be conceived, you know, there weren't a lot of depending on which retcon of his background you go to, is he thousands of years old? Is he hundreds of years old? If you go with the hundreds of years old, who were most people sailing at that time would be the Spanish.
Yep.
They were sailing back and forth with their silver fleets left and right. If you want to go further back, that no, he's more of Greek origin. Okay, I mean, but
Because it's supposed to be Atlantis.
well, I mean, Atlantis fell, but it's not like they stopped going. So, but the thing is, he's Atlantean from his mother's side. From his father's side, it was just a human sea captain.
Now,
And
the other thing, though, we've talked about Graham Hancock, War God, and all that kind of stuff before, but the whole idea of Quetzalcoatl and tying it into the Mayan tradition and these gods that are like human sacrifice, and it like, to me, that takes the whole thing and twists it in a way that has so much nothing to do with the original concept, that it's like, why even go there? And the fact that they even don't pronounce the name right. It's not Namor, Namor, Namor. And it's just like, just stop. Like, I have to tap out on that. That's just me.
Yeah. Originally, the original, I'm just looking at it right now. The original biography, his dad was an American sea captain, Leonard Mackenzie. So, I mean, even better. Damn those Americans. Now in the film, I've looked at the cast list. I know that his cousin, what's her face, shows up, Namorita, as well as Atuma, who, for people who followed Namor, he's a big deal. And it's Namora. Sorry, Namora is his cousin. Atuma is he's a kind of a big deal, because he's tried to take over Atlantis many times, and he's not a nice guy. I don't know in which capacity he appears in this film. I won't know until next week, so it's a lot of speculation on my part. I do know that Julia Louise-Dreyfus is in this film.
Yep.
And I saw that she's the new director of the CIA and the ex-wife of Agent Ross, which is kind of funny. So I was like, okay, does that mean that we're going to see some sort of Black Widow thing in here with a new Black Widow? But I didn't see her name in the list, so I guess not.
Yeah, for myself, I thought we were going to be doing a full spoiler episode with Troy and Gavin, basically spilling the beans on all this.
Yeah, me too.
And I've already said I had no interest in seeing this, so I kind of scoured the internet and looking at people who have posted things online and screen caps and all this kind of stuff. So I have seen a few minutes of the film, and every single thing I wasn't interested in. I saw the whole funeral for the Black Panther, and that rubbed me the wrong way. Okay, this goes into a big discussion. I'm kind of two sides of the coin on this. Part of me thinks that you shouldn't kill a fictional character because the actor portraying that character passes away.
Okay.
And the Marvel Cinematic Universe already has a precedent for having multiple actors playing the same character. And like, if you think of like Superman, like, do you kill Superman because Christopher Reeves passes away? Do you kill Batman because Kevin Conroy passes away? Like, what's like the litmus test for that? James Bond, Sean Connery.
There've been a couple of James Bonds.
Yeah.
Now I know that at one point they had talked about doing a digital double. Getting Guy de Silva to be every time the mask is down, it's Guy de Silva in the suit because he's the one who was the stunt double for Boseman for all the appearances of Black Panther. But I think this is where Disney kind of stumbled a bit because I think in a way they could have taken Black Panther out of the scene and using a digital double and then have him return at the end or something to that effect. I know they wanted to honor the memory of Boseman. But I agree with you, just because the actor is no longer portraying that role for whatever reason, they don't want to play it or death or whatever, doesn't mean you have to kill the character. Because I
Yeah.
do know that Shari ends up becoming the new Black Panther.
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, I agree that Chadwick Boseman embodied the role of T'Challa.
And that's actually my second side of the coin. So the one is like, do you kill the character because the actor passed away? But then on the other hand, he did such a damn good job of playing the role. Like, how do you get somebody
That's
to
just it.
step into that under the circumstances? And I actually kind of like what you're suggesting there is you could do that if it's Wakanda Forever. Maybe the character Black Panther is still there, but he's kind of takes a background, wizard mentor role, and you let the next generation kind of rise up and do something with that. Like there's a way to do something with the story, but it cheapens the character to me because I
Yeah.
loved him so much in Civil War and Infinity War, and
Mhm.
it's like his performance was so great to just write off the character.
Yeah,
Like that.
I would have almost done something relating to um I mean I'd thought about this like a couple of times before this movie came out. So because vibranium came as an asteroid that struck the Earth. We've never known where vibranium came from. And you could even have, T'Challa saying, have him put on the Black Panther thing and use the current voice technology to make it sound like Chadwick Boseman. Like, this is a link he has to follow. He has to find out where vibranium originally came from. So he enlists the aid of the Guardians of the Galaxy or one of the other Ravagers.
Or hell, even Shield.
Yeah. Well, no,
Or Nick Fury, whatever.
no, just, have like one of the Ravager ships come down and they're going to try to backtrack and follow the path of where the vibranium originally came from, because this is where you find out that maybe vibranium's not all the giant health benefits that you say it is. And they need to find out where it originally came from because it's attracting attention. The giant chunk of vibranium on Earth is part of the reason why Earth's being visited so much. So as the leader of Wakanda, he feels it's his responsibility, because Wakanda's become the place it has because of vibranium. It's his responsibility to meet this threat. So he says to his mom, says to his sister, hold Wakanda. I'll be back when I can. Get him out of
I'd be back.
and then have all this shit happen with Namor and the Atlanteans and so on and so forth. That way you can always bring the character back.
Yeah.
But by just killing the character off, it's like he's dead, he's gone. T'Challa's no more. Now that I do know someone has already spoiled the end credit scene. That T'Challa has a son named T'Challa. I don't know. I don't know. So, yeah.
One thing I kept thinking of, like anytime I was, looking through clips of this, is what you always say: if you're flipping through a TV channel and it captivates you and it makes you want to sit down and watch the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good story. With this, I always wanted to skip ahead. I didn't want to watch anymore. It's just
Yeah.
nothing in it caught me and captivated me.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Like when my wife and I just watched Black Panther earlier this week, I'll admit at one point I did fall asleep a bit because, I was a little tired. But I still woke up and still got right into the story again. The original Black Panther to me is a outstanding film.
Up until the fight at the train.
That never happened.
And the shield towels.
I just looked at his Killmonger fell off a cliff. That's what happened. He got defeated on the field. She already shot him with her little lion hand cannons and knocked him out.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was actually awesome.
Yeah, I do know that Michael B. Jordan shows up in this film. I don't know,
a flashback thing of some sort.
I don't know in what capacity. I didn't want to dive into that because I do still wanted that to be a surprise. Because especially after just watching Black Panther again, he nailed the role of Killmonger so good. Again, it's this whole Marvel thing of the hero faces off with the villain with the exact same power set and kills him off. And it's like, just stop killing off these villains so they can't come back. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, rant over about that. So I'm not going to get too deep into Black Panther. Other than I do know that the Ironheart TV series they're using the film as a jump off point. And that's coming in 2023 at some point. So
I did see some clips of Ironheart and I was not impressed. It kind of seemed like they phoned it in. It's same way they did with She-Hulk. It's Iron Man without having to do the work. And I did not like the character design. You've seen that, right? Where it kind of looks like a weird Power Ranger.
I have not looked at the design of the armor, mainly because I know I was going to be disappointed.
Okay, well, you will be disappointed, so
especially because like in the comics, it has such a unique look in the comics. And I was like, they're probably not going to get even close to that.
Well, the comic books was just like a feminine looking Iron Man.
Sort of. I mean, there was a definite. I mean, the face shield was a little different. It had bigger cheeks, like it had almost like little like things that start from her ear and down to the side of her cheeks, and there's a little bit more definition around her neck and stuff like that. But I'm afraid that they probably made it look like Voltron or some stupid shit like that.
Oh, yeah, it's like it's like dollar store Power Rangers as far as I'm concerned. Even the fact that rocket things in the back look like it was supposed to look like a heart, and it looks like what do they call that? Oh shoot, what do they call that with the braids in the hair, like the corn?
Oh, the cornrows.
Cornrows, yeah, that's in the helmet. Like you can see the bumps for it in the helmet. So,
all right, I'm going to do a quick little rant here. Please, to the producers and other higher ups who sign off on these designs, you need to take a little bit of a muscle relaxant so your ass can relax, your head can pop back out, and you can breathe air again. Because your head's jammed so far up your ass with some of these designs. I know better than these people. No, you don't know better than the original designs. That's just fuck. Just stop. If anything, her armor should have a very strong Iron Man vibe to it because that's who her hero is. Riri Williams idolizes Tony Stark, and it would make sense that her armor would have a very strong Iron Man flair to it. The actual comic, her armor has a very strong Iron Man flair to
it's like 100% Iron Man, at least in the original one. They switched it up a few times, but it's female Iron Man.
Yeah, it is, and it works. It just her color scheme is more black and purple as opposed to the red and gold.
The original one I think was red and gold.
Yeah, but they
altered eventually.
Eventually they shifted it to more purple and black. It's form fitting, except for the hips are a little bit bigger because that's where she stores a lot of the various equipment. But it's a slender, form fitting suit, and it. How can you fuck that up? And it sounds like they did. They did hard. Like, and if she used any vibranium in the construction of this, it should be form fitting because that shit is like damn near magical. Like, I mean, they got those little beads around their wrist that do everything. So you'd think this would be like this nice, sleek, form fitting. Throw her in a motion capture suit and just have her, do her thing.
The original clip I saw, she has like the homemade one, which is like the Mark I Iron Man, where it's like the homemade, clunky kind of bits and bolts strapped on. But then when she gets to Wakanda, she gets the whole, the Wakanda upgrade, and then it's the full-on Power
Yeah,
Ranger.
I'm just looking at now. So the mask from at Target, you can see the cornrows built into the, and I'm just why?
Yeah,
Why? Just oh
kind of
God.
seems racist to me. I don't know.
It does. It seems very racist to me. And it's just like, that's just leaning so hard into the stereotype. And it's just like, please stop. Please really do fucking stop. That's what I'm saying. As my plea to producers, executive producers, concept artists who are just happy to do this sort of garbage, stop. Just fucking stop. Hire some goddamn cosplayers to design you the costume, and you'll get something that'll look really great on screen. We've talked about this many times before on here. Cosplayers seem to be able to pull off the costume, comic book accurate costumes that don't look cheesy. Like
Namor, man, geez, Namor. The cosplayers have done Namor. I posted some on our Facebook page, but just a buff dude in a speedo, the speedo.
yes.
Let me try that again. You just need a buff dude in a speedo with a face that sort of looks like Leonard Nimoy, with pointy ears and wings on the ankles. Done.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
It's
Like
like,
that
no,
should
we
be.
got to add a whole bunch of other shit, and then also add in some stuff that kind of makes people think of what's his face, the DC variant. I just lost his name, Aquaman. There we go. Throw some Aquaman shit on him too. Um, it's just no, he doesn't need a trident. Yeah,
Yeah. It's like this should be such an easy job for costume designers. It's like, okay, you have to create a costume for Namor. So basically chainmail
green,
speedo.
yeah,
Yeah.
chainmail
Done.
speedo, some
Done.
some some wing ankle, like some ankle wings, and some yellow bracelets around it, and that's it.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Just the fact that they can screw that up by trying so hard and swapping the origin, and again, the Mayan stuff like that.
Yeah,
That actually pisses me off. And okay, so one thing I heard on some other discussion was that it might have to do with rights, because Namor was
yeah,
tied up in other legal
yeah. Well,
rights.
Namor went through a couple of different comic book companies, and the problem is when you start to take something from comics and throw it up on the big screen. All it takes is for people to say, "Wait a second, they have the comic book, they have the print rights, but not the film rights," and then it's just money flying everywhere. Um, I remember a story that Mark Simon told us in Film Structures that um, were guys in LA that would clip newspaper stories. Like they would buy a newspaper every day, just clip just about every goddamn story they could out of it, and mail it to themselves, registered mail, so that if a television movie or a movie was made based off this story, they would show up on set or show up at the movie studio making it and say, "Wait, I have the rights to this." Because it was a simple form you could fill out, and then you attach the article that was written about, and there you go. And they would just basically get paid money to shut up and go away. And that was how some of these people made a living, is, you know, filling out the form, stapling the news article about it, and mailing it to themselves so they have a time date stamp on it, and just basically running around to movie studios saying, no, you can't make this without my permission, and then it just be like, here's 10 grand, shut up, go away.
And it looks like Namor had the rights sold to Universal.
Yeah,
It's like one of those weird Hulk things where you're not really allowed to make a movie based on the character, and there's something if you alter it, sort of like what DC did with Superman, where they took away his red underwear on the outside just to say, hey, look, new character design. Now, the creator's legacy family doesn't get any rights because we changed it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I wonder if the whole Namor instead of Namor,
Yeah,
and
it was
changing the backstory was just like a legal decision.
Yeah, just to avoid paying out some money. Because what was the I didn't become a millionaire by writing a lot of checks. I think that was in The Simpsons when Homer met Bill Gates, And he's like, so you're going to buy my internet company? And Bill Gates says, I didn't become a millionaire by writing a lot of checks. Get them, boys. So yeah, Disney didn't, the Disney Corporation didn't become billionaires by writing a lot of checks. So
Yeah.
so by any means necessary, I guess. About a week ago, a small little movie came out called Weird, the Al Yankovic story. It came out on the Roku channel. I will admit to watching it the day it was released because somehow no one went to the Toronto International Film Festival back on September 8th and watched it.
Some people tried.
Yeah, you tried.
Definitely
But
people tried, and every single ticket was sold out.
I wonder why. After watching this movie, I can see why every single ticket was sold out. I will say, so for anyone who doesn't know who Weird Al Yankovic is,
How dare you?
get the hell out of your cave because I mean, just why? I mean, this guy's hilarious. Anyway, so Weird Al Yankovic has a reputation of, unlike most people in the music industry, never arrested, never do drugs, doesn't drink alcohol, vegetarian, is very big on charities and very interactive with his fans. So when you say like, oh, there's going to be a documentary like a weird the Al Yankovic story, you're like, oh, this is going to be boring. And he turns it on his head and it's like, well, what if Weird Al wasn't that wholesome, family friendly sort of individual?
And it's exactly what Weird Al does.
Exactly.
He takes the concept, he flips it on his head, and does a parody.
And this is a parody of, Weird Al Yankovic, and it's so good. So this whole movie starts with, as a child, he becomes interested in parodying songs against his father's wishes. His mom,
Amazing grapes, how
yeah.
sweet.
Why would you change the song like that? It's not. Yeah, and then his mom secretly buys him an accordion, but his dad
After the father beats the crap out of the accordion guy.
beats punctures a lung. Like the guy's a collapsed lung. We're having a family moment here. But he destroys it when Al is caught at an illicit polka party. I mean, that phrase never happens. Illicit polka party. Anyway, so when Al's caught in illicit polka party, his dad destroys the accordion, strains his relationship with his parents. So we fast forward a bit. Now he's in college with some roommates. But he keeps trying to join bands as an accordion player, but is constantly rejected. I think the punk band was interested, but didn't want to.
They paid for it later.
Oh, they did. But so he says to his roommates, he just really wants to parody songs, and they're like, well, we'll do it. And he's like, well, it's not something you just do off the top of your head. So he's making lunch and he's making a bologna sandwich for everybody. And the radio is playing My Sharona, and he's looking at the bologna, and he's inspired to write My Bologna.
The record skips.
The record's skipping, going, Mama My Sharona, Mama My Sharona. He's like, Mama My Bologna, Mama My Bologna. So they go to a bathroom and record it.
Actually, one thing with it, as soon as he does the My Bologna part, because that's in the trailer, and my boys watch that. My Bologna. And my sons were singing that for months because, again, the trailer came out in the summer. Tell me who's the hungry one. The hungry one. Just open up a package of My Bologna. My Bologna. They were singing that nonstop. It's like, this is amazing. And that shows the whole multi-generational appeal of Weird Al.
It does. So now, true to real life, he did record My Bologna in a bathroom for the acoustics, sent it in to local radio DJ who put it on the air. Now he goes to the Scotti Brothers records, which was absolutely hilarious because you have Will Forte and Weird Al as the brothers. And at one point, Will Forte goes on this whole rant of like, who would listen to a parody? What sort of moron? And Weird Al's like, whoa, okay, slow down. So, all right, we've
it's so meta.
Yeah, it is. And this whole movie's so meta. So, so they go, they're like, well, you have to have gigs. So he performs I Love Rocky Road at a biker bar. His roommates help in by being part of the band, and it's a huge success. This captures the interest of Dr. Demento, who just happens to be there in a biker bar. Anyway, and he even says there's the whole thing they have in the trailer. Al Yankovic sounds like a real mouthful. Let's change it to Weird Al Yankovic. I love it. And then they meet up with Wolfman Jack, and who says dares Al to prove himself by parodying a song right off the spot, and he does Another One Bites the Dust. Another one rides the bus. Another one rides the bus. Because John Deacon's present. This movie is so good.
And have you seen the original Another One Bites the Dust video?
Yes.
That's out there on the internet. So it's neat because obviously they changed the circumstances for the movie, but the vibe is 100%. It like with all the weird whistles and horns and nonsense and the like hitting the cases, and it's great. So like I love the fact that it is a documentary based on a true story, and there are some true elements. And then it's some other ones
and some not so true elements. So there's a whole thing where Al decides he is going to start writing original songs only. So he writes a new song after Dr. Demento gives him some guacamole laced with LSD, and he comes up with his next song. Eat It.
Purely original.
Yes. And now Madonna wants Al to do a parody of her song Like a Virgin, but he's like, no, I'm only doing original songs at this point.
I got to jump back to the whole eat it thing, because that was the moment that they gave away a bunch of stuff in the trailer where you realize, okay, this is going to go off the rails at some point. But the moment where he throws the cassette tape to the record producers and it's like, I've never heard this music before. That's because it's original. Wait a second. So you're saying this isn't based on any other song? No. So you're saying that, this is like a completely original music.
Yeah.
So you're saying, am I stuttering? But at that moment, and you can tell they're playing meta with the whole thing, because everybody in the audience is like, wait a second, what? Yeah. Original? Yeah. But that's Michael Jackson, right? No, it's not. It's original. And then they get to that later. But
anyways, though, a very intoxicated Al suffers a near fatal car accident, and he's rushed to the hospital where he comes up with "Hey, like a surgeon," when he regains consciousness. And so they do this whole thing where he's still heavily injured, but reminded that "Eat It" is to be the last song on the show. He gets drunk on stage, insults the crowd, he gets arrested.
Do you want to see it? Do you want to see it? Do you want me to pull it out? Yeah.
And then
he pulls out an accordion and gets tackled for lewd behavior.
And then he confessed to Madonna that he fears he's alienated everybody. And so she's like, well, but then Madonna's captured by agents of Pablo Escobar, who I guess is an enormous Weird Al fan. Who wouldn't be? And has kidnapped Madonna to coerce him to playing for his 40th birthday party. So he flies to Colombia goes on a rampage, breaking into the compound. And
now we go full UHF.
Yeah, he gets into a shootout, kills Escobar and his mercenaries. Madonna tries to talk Al into giving up music and taking over the drug empire. Al returns home, works at his father's factory. And
Madonna tries to shoot him a couple times.
Yeah,
can't aim.
Al's father admits that he never belonged to that sign work and secretly supported Al's chosen path. He reveals he grew up in an Amish community and was excommunicated for taking up the accordion. And this leads us to Amish Paradise. And then he was assassinated on stage by one of Madonna's henchmen in
1985.
In 1985, yeah. So obviously none of this really happened like this. But it is so
well, if you listen
funny.
To the end credits, it did all happen. The song at the end says it because it's a movie, it's now all canon.
Yeah,
it all happened. The only thing that didn't happen was he didn't do the Live Aid or whatever it's called with Queen, because he apparently blew them off the stage when he performed. That was the only thing that's not factual in this movie.
Yeah. Now the nice thing, so Weird Al actually provides the on-screen singing voice for Daniel Radcliffe. So anytime Daniel Radcliffe goes to sing, it's actually Weird Al's voice, which was
But
nice.
the lip sync is the best I've
It's dead
ever
on.
seen. It's 100%.
Now,
At first, I was thinking, how does he sound so much like Weird Al? Like, I'm watching it. It's like, wait a second. No, it is Weird Al. But he's just doing such a good job.
He is. You
and
can tell
have you
he knows
seen
the lyrics.
If you look at Daniel Radcliffe, there's one, I forget which late night show, if it was Conan or what, but he was doing some rap thing where he's rapping through the alphabet.
Artificial amateurs aren't at all amazing. Analytically, I assault, animate things. Broken barriers bound in by the bomb beat. Buildings are broken, basically I'm bombarding. Casually create catastrophes, casualties, canceling cats got their canopies collapsing. Detonate a dime a dank, daily do and do. Demonstrations, Don Dada on the down low.
Yeah.
And just his phonetics and how fast he could go and how much he could do with, like, it's like Eminem style, like just blasting through stuff. So he definitely has that talent.
He does,
and he shows it here.
Now what was nice was all the different cameo appearances. So I mean, some of the characters like Rainn Wilson, from The Office, he's Dr. Demento. Weird Al being Tony Scotti, and the fact that his Weird Al Yankovic's real wife, Suzanne, appears as his wife, Sylvie. Which originally I was like, I looked at, when she's on the screen, I'm like, wait a second. I recognized her, but I couldn't figure out from where, and I realized, wait a second, that's Weird Al Yankovic's wife. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is a huge Weird Al fan, is the ER doctor. They just sprinkle them all throughout. These just like, the Patton Oswalt is the heckler.
And apparently he played Dr. Demento in the original Funny or Die.
Yeah, he did.
Like
he
10
did.
years ago.
So there's just a lot of, and just a lot of things like Josh Groban plays a waiter, and Seth Green is one of the voices as the radio DJ.
And then the pool party.
Dr.
Demento's,
Alice Cooper and Tiny Tim and Gallagher, and
apparently so many of those actors that showed up, he's like, well, we don't really have a budget to really pay anybody, so you know what, I'm going to send a Christmas card out to all my friends and say, hey, does anybody want to be a part of this? And a lot of them said yes, and they showed up.
Now, I'm just going to quickly say, so in addition to losing Kevin Conroy this week, we also lost Gallagher, the real comedian Gallagher. So seeing him in this film, played by someone else, obviously, was kind of like, oh, okay, it's kind of prophetic in a way. Anyways, this movie, if you're any sort of Weird Al fan, or if you've even heard one of his parody songs, you need to watch this movie. It is hilarious. This is a movie that I want to show my kids pretty soon, but I'm gonna have to wait maybe a year or two. At least
all my kids watched it.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna wait.
Mine are a little bit older.
I'm gonna wait for Ramona to get a little older to watch this, but I think, yeah, definitely Josie's gonna see it pretty soon. There's some, there are some things that are a little, maybe a little mature for an 11-year-old.
Like Evan Rachel Wood, her Madonna, spot on.
Yeah.
I can't believe how much she knocked that one out of the park. Apparently, she has a 9-year-old son that wanted to come on set to meet Harry Potter. And she's like, oh, sorry, you can't come on set because I'm basically making out with Harry Potter all day. You probably should be there for that. But her performance of Madonna was so good and so spot on. It's crazy.
There was honestly not a single performance I was unhappy with in this film.
Yeah. And it took, 18 days to film the entire thing? So it was a low budget, 18 days. They just knocked it out of the park. They knew what they were going to shoot. And that's one thing in the behind the scenes videos, like Evan Rachel Wood was saying, she's used to these bigger productions where, you shoot this angle, you shoot this angle, you shoot this thing. This one, they shoot the thing. It's like, oh, we're not doing like a B-roll. No, we're going on to the next set. Like, just next set. Bang, bang, bang. Go. And that's got to be fun as an actor because you stay fresh, you stay in the moment. You're just doing your thing and cranking it out. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you can feel it.
So this movie had a budget of $8 million. Originally, it was going to be shot over 22 days, but they were able to do it so tightly they got it done in 18. And then this was also shot during the COVID pandemic. So like, hats off to them for being able to shoot this way. I think part of this is because everyone was so pumped to do this. You know, they gave it their best performance right away. You didn't need, like, 67 takes, Kubrick, to do a scene. Now, there were a lot of fun little cultural references, like the big Dr. Demento's pool party. Basically, that's right out of Boogie Nights. Al Yankovic being arrested on stage stems from the 69 incident when the Doors, when Jim Morrison kind of flashed the crowd at Miami and got arrested for it. And then the end credit scene, you watch right through the credits, I'm assuming.
You're talking to me or the
Yes,
audience?
you, Mike, did you
Yes.
watch all the way through the credits where they do
I know about
whole-
the zombie apocalypse.
Yes, where Madonna's coming to visit Al's grave, and then his hand comes up through and grabs her wrist, zombified arm. Yeah, maybe a sequel.
Well, here's an interesting thing, because again, I tried to stay clear of stuff until I watched it, and after I watched the movie a couple times and some sequences a couple dozen times, I started to dig deep. And one of the things, the writer of this and director said was that for a time they had considered time travel as part of the story.
That would have been awesome.
And then they said, okay, that's a little bit much, so they cut that part out. But you can see how that leaves room for a sequel.
It does. And I when I watched this film, I was so giddy. Like when we first got announced that this film was being made, it was like, oh, this sounds interesting. But then to actually watch it, when I watched it the first time and the credits rolled, I got all the way to the end, and I was just like, do I have time to watch it again right now? Unfortunately, I didn't, so I had to wait until later that evening. But yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. What are you waiting for? Pause, go watch it, come back.
Seriously, this movie gave me so much joy. Even my kids said, Dad, you're so happy. Why are you so happy? It's like, because they made something beautiful. And everything about it. And I love it, across the entire spectrum, the fact that like Weird Al has been a part of my life since the early 80s, ever since I first heard that first cassette tape.
Same
and every single decade it seems like he makes a comeback. But is it a comeback? No, he's just staying. And he's outlasted just about every single parody he's ever done. He's staying relevant the entire time.
He's outlasted other artists that he's parodied.
Just about every artist that he's parodied.
Yeah. I mean, I saw him a few years back during the Mandatory Fun tour, and his stage show is so entertaining. Like, just ridiculously entertaining. Like, if you ever get a chance to see him live, go. Like don't wait. Go. If someone says, "Hey, do you want to go see Weird Al in concert?" If you don't say yes, then you need to get a baseball bat and beat yourself about the head and shoulders until you
beat it.
Yeah.
Or eat it.
Because when I saw him, let's see, he was 58, 59, and he moves around that stage a lot. He just doesn't like pull up a stool, sit down, and sing, play, and sing, and off. He is moving the whole show.
And costume swaps and
it doesn't stop. Like, he just, there's not like a big break and we're going to bring someone else out. Well, we give Al a break to catch his breath and no, he just goes. It's such an entertaining show.
And apparently he was showing the Funny or Die trailer for this for years, and people kept saying, when's the movie coming out? It's like, well, I don't know. And then he had a little bit of free time. It's like, hey, you want to do that movie? Yeah, let's do it.
Even
that's fun.
Yeah. So,
and the fact that it was done on a low budget, the fact that you can tell everybody that's a part of it actually cares about it, the fact that the writing is solid. I mean, I've been chirping She-Hulk for the bad comedy writing for months now.
Yes.
But you look at this, it's like, okay, this is comedy writing done right. It's hilarious. Like, everybody was cracking up. The entire family was laughing for stuff like throughout the entire film. Yeah, that's what you want.
This has been a movie that I didn't know I needed until I watched it and realized I would be less having not seen it. I really can't express that any better than that. Like, just go see this movie. Go see it. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Al.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to shift some gears here. So last Monday was another episode of Quantum Leap. I am a heartbeat away from just checking out and saying F it. This show is just, it went off the rails pretty much from the get-go, and now it's like plowing its way through a daycare. Oh god.
Put that on the poster.
Yeah. So this one was Stand By Ben. Even the titles of the episodes are getting worse. So in this case, Ben jumps into the body of Ben Winters. So I guess they didn't have to worry about his name. And he's a teenager who's escaping from an abusive academy for troubled youths with some other teens. Meanwhile, it's such a cliched thing. It's like they're being brutalized. So one of their uncles, I think, is a news reporter, and it's just like a who the F cares. Anyway, the big one is she find out the kids lead productive lives, but Ben's experience with the kid triggers memories of recruiting what's her name? Hold on, Janice Kelvecki.
Take your word for it.
Yeah,
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, Al Kelvecki's daughter. And so he triggers his memories of recruiting Janice, and he tells Addison that he remembers why he left in the first place was to save her. So at this point, back in the present, the head of security is trying to track down Janice's imaging chamber because they realize she has one. So they're trying to track her down, and she escapes, and who cares? But it leads the whole thing of, that means sometime in the future, Addison's life is in danger and she dies. But if Ben can make this leap, he can do something. Or it, as I said, this show has now ventured in the realms of don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Does anybody care?
Okay. Now, so by comparison, when the first episode came out, there were 335 million US viewers. Now we're into the mid twos. And it's just steadily, getting low, getting high, getting low, getting high, but it has not crested past 3 since the very first episode.
3 what?
Million
3 viewers?
3 million viewers.
3 million.
I mean, before streaming service and all that, 3 million viewers a week would cancel it would be the death knell of a show. They'd be like, no, fuck it. Which I really think they should do for this one, because the show is just, as I said, it's come off the rails, and it's plowing its way through the daycare, and the old folks home is right across the street, and the train's headed for that. I've pretty much checked out of this show, unless they suddenly announce that Scott Bakula is doing a guest spot. That might make me go, ooh, maybe I'll watch that episode. But right now, I don't care. Oh, it's just so bad. Now on Wednesday, was the latest episode of Andor, where, so up until this point, they have been keeping with the formula of every 3 episodes is like a movie genre. We had like the guy getting out of town, and the heist. Is the heist happening yet? And now in the aftermath of the heist, we're like 4 episodes in. We're now Andor's been mistaken for a vandal and sent off to prison. So far, we've been 3 episodes in this prison. I would think they would make this prison break a big deal. If they're going to go past that 3 episode trope, then do 6 episodes and make this prison break huge. This is what attracts the rebellion to, like, oh, we got to hire this Andor guy. No, they do it in a single episode. So this episode was called One Way Out, and in the single episode, they got everyone got out of the prison. So Cassian is able to, by breaking a water pipe and flooding the floor, they were able to disable this floor security system. allowing all the work crews to like overpower the guards. Now the nice thing is Andy Serkis as Kino gives this really stirring speech. As I'd said to you guys in the chat, like this speech, Andy Serkis could convince Jello to march uphill. Like you'd want to do what he says. And at the very end, he reveals, during the escape, he's like, well, I can't swim. And since this prison's like kind of surrounded by water, it means he's going to have to stay. Because Cass and when Caston looks like he's about to offer to, well, I'll swim you over there. Someone knocks him, off the platform, and he lands in the water and never gets to say it. So I guess Kino's going to stay there and get recaught and killed. Anyways, while that's going on, Mon Mothra is dealing with this shady businessman who offers to help to finance the projects, only if she arranges a meeting between her daughter and his son, which is the initial step in marriage. And she's like, well, fuck you. And I guess he doesn't take that well. And the only other thing is we find out that one of the security personnel, Imperial security personnel, is secretly an informant within the ISB. Updates, what's his name? Rail. I can't remember his name. Luthien Rail. Basically tells Luthien what's going on, and he even says, well, you've got this thing on me and my family, but I want to get out. And the guy's like, well, I've given up everything. And he, again, Skarsgård gives an amazing speech about what he's given up and what he has left to give up for the rebellion. He has nothing left to give up because he's given up everything. And he's, again, a very stirring speech. And that's how it ends. And again, it's just like, so we have 2 episodes left. What movie trope can they do for 2 movies, unless it's like, the parody of the escape films of, when the 2 guys, with the chain between their legs, dressed up in the black and white striped uniforms from the, those 20 styles movie where they're just running and running and running and waiting for like the train to run over the chain connecting together, sort of bullshit. So they have 2 episodes to do it in, I guess. And that's my review of Andor.
I'm not convinced to watch it.
I'll watch it so you don't have to.
Thank you for your service, Trevor.
I do what I can. So yeah, it's been now in the next week or so, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head that's, making me like, ooh, maybe this is coming up or maybe that's coming up. So I don't know if episode 61 is going to be better. I'll have a more in-depth thing about what's going on with Black Panther, but at this point, I think Troy and Gavin should probably give a pretty good, review of it. So I don't know if it's going to be necessary for me.
One thing that's coming up in the way distant future is DCU with James Gunn now as whatever it is, like whatever the title is. Basically he's the creative director of the entire studio now, and with Henry Cavill leaving The Witcher because of the terrible decisions Netflix made with the story. And it's fascinating to see him just talk about in the interviews where it's like, no, I'm actually a fanboy. I like the original source material, and all these people that are writing this, they're making the wrong decisions. And I'm like, hey, actually, this character can do this. Actually, it's supposed to happen this way. Okay, it's your show. I'll do what I'm supposed to do.
And it's funny, like on set, people kept joking, like, ask Cavill if you have any questions about The Witcher, because he's the most knowledgeable on set. He knows more than the writers that they have there to do like fast rewrites. And he kept saying, Geralt needs to speak more, because in the books he doesn't shut up. He's very talkative. He's not just not just a whole bunch of grunts, but he actually is very verbose in his responses. But in the show, they just want him to, look pretty and grunt. And Cavill was like, I don't, he's got to talk more. That's how we get some of the exposition, is with him talking, and that's how you find out what's going on around with the rest of the world. But yeah, with him, when he said that, one of the Hemsworth boys can take over, because he's not happy with the direction they're going. And it's not like there's only like one Witcher book and that's all the material, and they're just making up, they have no other material to pull from. There's a lot of goddamn Witcher books.
And it sounds like what all the people are saying is the writer's room and Netflix hates the source material, and they're actively trying to sabotage it for their own agendas. Now, if that's true or not, I don't know. I'm not in there. But that's what it sounds like. And the fact that you have the lead of the show, the lead actor, essentially saying the same thing,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder about these writing rooms.
It-
But what gets me though is, in my opinion, he was in a couple bad Superman movies.
well, I think
But
that's
I
more.
think he could be a perfect Superman.
He could. The problem is, I mean, I know there's a lot of Zack Snyder fanboys out there. I will admit, Snyder has made a couple of really good films. He's also made a couple of horrible fucking films, and in my mind, you know, Batman v Superman and Justice League, both of those, and even Man of Steel, were terrible fucking movies.
Because
Maybe
it was the
because-
wrong vibe for what he was trying to do.
Yeah, he's not the gritty Dark Knight. He's
Watchmen. I liked Watchmen. I didn't like how he changed the ending.
I liked Watchmen. I liked 300. I even liked his remake of Dawn of the Dead. But I just feel he fumbled so hard with this stuff for the DCU. He just like, well, Nolan stuff is dark and gritty. Yeah, because Batman's supposed to be dark and gritty.
Right.
I mean, if you go back to the Batman the animated series and even Superman, for Batman the animated series, most of the backgrounds were done on black paper.
Yeah.
And that toned everything down a little darker. Superman was all done on white paper, so everything was bright. Metropolis is bright and airy. It's like the land of tomorrow. But then when you're like, oh, I'm going to make a Superman movie, and we want to put the same kind of dark film filter that that was used on Batman, you're like, well, why? It's a different vibe. So that's
if you're not in Gotham and you're not with Batman, avoid that filter.
Exactly. So for me, like Man of Steel was just like, so there's an edit around, like flying around YouTube long ago, of someone recolored Man of Steel. They brightened everything back up, and it was such a better film. Even though, and they just did short sequences, it was a better looking film.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm hoping Cavill comes back as Superman, and I hope they keep Zack Snyder the fuck away from him.
Well, it sounds like it. It sounds like he's heading back. That's what the rumors sound like. And then again, James Gunn, he knows how to do these kind of films. Like Peacemaker's perfect example.
Yeah, so I just
think
think,
like a C-tier character.
I just hope James Gunn, as Snyder comes up the door and says, I want to do this next Superman movie, they slam the door so hard that it breaks Snyder's nose. Hopefully Gunn will have the balls to do that, because I just don't want another Zack Snyder DC film, because he needs to be stopped.
Yeah, because if you can do a Superman film right, with the sort of, I don't know, hope and dreams and American way and the optimism and the lightheartedness that
you'll
Superman
believe a man
have.
can fly. Like the
Exactly.
tagline from the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeves, you'll believe a man can fly. That's the kind of hope and optimism you want.
And I keep thinking back to the whole Batman versus Superman movie that came out, and Henry Cavill did that little talk with all the little kids, asking them who's their favorite, Batman or Superman, and the playfulness he had with them. I know the smile on his face and the optimism, and talking to kids. The kids are chirping him, saying they like Batman better. It's like, really? Batman can't fly. It's like, oh yes, he can. It's like, well, he can only fall down. And he just the playfulness.
Yeah.
If you put that into a fun movie like a James Gunn can produce, make it bright, colorful, optimistic, man, they would have a blockbuster.
They would.
Huge.
So I'm going to quickly take a side step back to Witcher. So I just quickly looked up. There are 9 Witcher novels out there. The first 3 are just short story collections. So there's got to be a couple in there that could make episodes, or you could turn into a season. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 6 actually 5 novels of just the Witcher saga, and then in 2013 released in Polish in 2018 a standalone novel called A Season of Storms. There's plenty of material there
to be butchered by Netflix. Oh,
to be butchered by Netflix's writers thinking we can do better than the guy who actually wrote this. No, you can't. If you could, you'd be the one with a library of best-selling novels. So yeah, I'm tired of hey, we got a great idea. It's again, this came from one of Mark Simon's. When he was coaching me with animation stuff like that, and we were talking about the difference between a film that is true to events or a film that's inspired by. And there's something of the quote of something to the likes of, he's like, when a film is true to events, it has to be true to the events. When a film is inspired by, you could say, make a movie about a space gorilla who fights Nazis, and you're like, well, and then but you're inspired by a guy who like helped a kitten at the side of the road. It has nothing to do with the kitten at the side of the road. I was just inspired by that to write a film about a space gorilla.
Yeah, you could make a Weird Al biopic.
Yeah, so what's happening now, I think, with The Witcher is you've got a bunch of these guys. We're inspired by the novels, but we're going to take nothing from them because we think we can do better. It's like they don't even say based off the books, The Witcher. Say inspired by the character of The Witcher.
I don't even think it is. You know what? Because I would say, like the Weird Al is inspired by the life of the real Weird Al. But what's happening with The Witcher, it's not even that. It's and I would even go as far as to say She-Hulk is you're taking this character and it's a paycheck. It's like, I'm going to use this as a forum for me to throw my ideological beliefs, all the crappy ideas I have, because I'm getting a paycheck. And now this is my chance to preach to the world without creating anything original of my own.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this, plug myself into it, and fire it into your faces.
Well, it just feels like they're like, well, let's take a character that people know. So like the Witcher games, Wild Hunt, I have Witcher 3 on my Switch, with all the DLCs. The game it's fun to play. It's, very successful. And I think it's a case of the writers are like, we're just going to keep pulling from the game. It's like, no, the game has a lot to do with the novels, but doesn't have the same tone as the novels. And you can kind of see it in the first season of The Witcher, where Cavill's trying to give some pushback as to, let's be more faithful to the novels, less faithful to the game. And but they're like, no, I have an agenda. Again, I just feel it's like a writer in the writer room going, well, we're going to use this character and a story that I came up with, and I think that's even better than what was written for him, and mash the two together, and then tra la la, I'll get some writing award, and then I'll write a bunch of successful novels and screw starlets and have a mansion in Beverly Hills. And it's like, it doesn't happen. No, just stop.
Yeah, I'm so tired of that. And that's one thing. Angry. Okay, going back to the Rings of Power and the original Lord of the Rings, whereas Peter Jackson was saying, it's like, look, we're staying true to the intent that Tolkien had. Yeah. He was trying to make a mythology for England, essentially. He was trying to create a culture and a backstory and, the whole mythology. And Peter Jackson's like, oh, this is what he intended. We're not going to mess with that. Like, we're not going to muck around with his intent. Yeah. Whereas Rings of Power is like, oh, we need to update it for a modern audience, and we need diversity, and we need... It's like,
no, you don't.
No, this is why you fail.
Yeah. That's why, like, to me, movies that they only share the title of the source material and nothing else, like World War Z, which still is like just a sore wound that every time someone brings up that movie and the fact that there's a sequel on the way, it's just like, stop sticking your finger in that wound, because it's just going to make me angry.
Yeah, that's a callback. Go back to the first episodes, folks.
Oh God, yeah, that's I am, because the worst part is I read the zombie survival guide. I read World War Z, I listened to the audiobook, and then they announced, oh, they're going to make a movie. And I was like, that's going to be awesome. And then we get Brad Pitt versus the zombies, and it was just like, what a giant steaming pile of shit. And they're like, well, let's do a sequel. It's like, no, let's not. And it's when the problem is when you take source material that is really good, but you get writers that are like, I can do better. They figured, the writer didn't know what they were doing. I can do better. No, if you could do better, then you would be writing these big successful novels that other people would want to make movies of. That's my opinion on that. It's just like, when I see like these morons in souped up cars trying to do Fast and Furious on the road, it's like, if you were honestly that good, then we would be watching you like going around the NASCAR circuits or the Formula One circuits or shit like that. You're just a train wreck waiting to happen. You're not that good. But the shit gets made, and yeah.
And the thing is, if they did do better, it would be appreciated.
Yeah,
it's an easy litmus test. How do you say that word?
Litmus test.
Yeah. It's like if you actually improved on the source material, it would be so good that
people be like, we got to get this guy to write something else because he's really good.
Yeah, but then if everybody bails on it and pisses on it because it sucks so bad, well, that's on you, whoever wrote that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I had this conversation a little while back with a friend of mine who was talking about, movies that shouldn't be made, and he was talking about Twilight and that whole series, and it was like, well, the original Twilight started as fanfic. And he didn't realize that the Stephanie Meyer had written these books as not the books, but she'd written this whole fanfic, and then she decided, well, maybe I can see if I can get this published. So she made some changes, so it wasn't quite so from the material she was fanficking from, but something else. And she gets the books published, and a bunch of angsty teenage girls jump all over it, and then next thing you know, it's 5 fucking movies. Yeah. So anyways, yes, sparkly vampires. But the whole thing is people can take a source material and say, well, I'm going to do it better. And they do it better, and it gets recognition, and things can happen. But when people say, oh, this is a successful story, I'm going to do better because damn it, I'm the one in the driver's seat. And you're like, but it's not better. It's horribly, horribly worse. Like Gus Van Sant, why the fuck did you try to remake Psycho in color? Shot for shot remake. That one still is just like, wow. That's someone saying, you know what? I've got a giant pile of money, and instead of burning it, I'm going to waste some people's times with it. That's the remake of Psycho. He could have honestly made a giant bonfire in his front yard. People could have roasted weenies and made s'mores, and it would have been a better experience for all.
That's facts.
And it's sad that that's the fact that that's shit like that happens. Like, just, you don't need to remake stuff that's already good. I still believe it should be, for up and coming directors, if you really want to prove your chops, take a bad movie and make it good. That'll show us how good of a director are. But if you can just take an already existing product or a good movie and then remake it into a piece of horse shit, you are in the wrong line of work. Maybe your parents were right, and accounting is the line of work you should have gone into.
Yeah, and the people who are able to like draw from that source material and add to it, George Lucas, Star Wars, the original one, right? Like, you're taking all these things that you enjoy and you try and add to it and combine it and create something. It's like, oh, okay, you did it. You're a billionaire now.
I honestly, I like, so way back when, Arnold Schwarzenegger was in that small little film Predator. We had no idea about that. I mean, you watch the movie, you're like, holy shit, it's an alien with the freaky mouth and the shoulder cannon. And that as much as we knew. And then Dark Horse Comics got the rights to come up with some stories. And their writers are like, well, let's expand this universe of these characters. Where are they from? What do they do? What do they have? And then the second Predator movie came out, and they're like, well, let's pull from the comic book some of these cool weapons they had and kind of expand the cinematic version of a Predator. Up until now, we've got Prey, where we find out that they've been coming to Earth for many, many years, many, many decades. That to me is taking an existing property and pushing the boundaries, but still staying true to the material. But then there's so many that just don't, and you need like a little council of like 5 to 3-year-olds that just go no. Every time you go to like, I think I'm going to do something, they're like no, and you can't do it. You've been vetoed unless you bring lollipops or something. But yeah, it's just there's so many bad things out there where people are like, I'm going to take this and make it better, and it just makes it worse. I'm going to take this really good thing and make it better. No, you just made it a whole fuck ton worse. So yeah, I'm getting all the swearing out now.
One interesting thing you were saying about just fan fiction, and I was remembering this Jordan Peterson lecture. Apparently, there's 5 genres that appeal for females for that. Have you heard this one before?
I remember something about it, but go ahead, hit it.
Okay, so the 5 archetypes that I guess females are attracted to: vampires, werewolves, billionaires, surgeons, and pirates.
Yeah, we could put something like that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I ever since I heard that, I guess there's actual clinical studies on this, and it got me thinking a lot about that. And so anybody in the audience who's trying to attract a female, you could go with one of those genres.
You could do like a vampire pirate in the modern day.
That's a billionaire.
He'd be a billionaire because of all the different, the amount of treasure that he's gathered up over the years. And then he comes into conflict with a werewolf who's also a surgeon who's also a werewolf, and try to keep that secret and keep from infecting his patients. But he feels he needs to, he does so much harm, he has to do so much good to kind of balance that out, balance his ledger, and then the two come into conflict.
Well, even if you think of Batman, okay, he's a billionaire. He dresses as a bat, almost a vampire.
Almost a vampire.
And his father was a surgeon.
Yeah, that's 3 of 5 right there.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. And he's been a pirate when he went back in time.
Well, there we go.
There we go. The only thing he hasn't been is a werewolf. But
he probably has at some point in time.
Yeah, but
it's a long DC history.
I'm sure at some point he's planned to be a werewolf at some point, because he plans everything. But yeah, it's just it's yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. But yeah, so I'm almost at wit's end sometimes with some of the decision that like Hollywood makes, and I was actually talking to a friend of mine about the growing quality from streaming services. Like some of the Netflix films coming out are just, they're so good compared to when you look back, early Netflix films, which were just like filmed on high 8 by high school students. At least it felt like. And now they're like full-blown productions, like just, and not just productions, but quality productions. Amazon's getting into it now. Hulu's getting into it. Like everyone's starting to make their own, say we can make a movie. And because we know it's on a streaming service, we can still make our money back. And they are. And I think this is part of the death knell of broadcast TV is, like NBC's not going to suddenly, let's make a movie, put it on NBC. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. Folgers can only put out so much money to NBC to make these movies. But
that's why I'm interested with Weird and Roku. And is that how you say it? Roku. Okay, the fact that they created this movie, it's getting huge reviews.
It is.
And it's essentially airing for free for anybody who's able to access it. Of course, there's some of us who are outside of the region, and Weird Al himself had said that in one of these Reddit Ask Me Anything.
Yeah.
It's like, there's very probably no way you can watch it legally, VPN. And I'm sure you have a torrent of other questions, but I got to go now. So I thought that was interesting. But it'll be interesting to see with a film like that that's that good, how many people are able to sign up, and if Roku is able to expand to the different geographies, I guess, like regions, and people sign up, because man, I would totally do that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm shocked at how good these films are starting to get. And I mean, they're not doing it on a shoestring budget. Like, Weird was done for $8 million. I think that's more of the anomaly than the norm. But they're getting better, and that's the part that I'm like, how much better can they start getting? Like, will Netflix or will Amazon or one of the other streaming services come up with a big budget successful movie, and then you're like, well, why am I going to the theaters? Why am I watching broadcast TV?
But the thing is, you could go to a theater. If they put Weird in a theater, I could go see it, I would go.
Yeah,
I've already watched it a couple times, and I would still pay to see it.
Oh,
it's
me
that
too.
good.
Yeah, it's just it's funny that you can come up with these great movies, and 10 years ago, Weird would never be made. There'd be no film studio would take it on, and no one would throw it in theaters. They'd be like, nope, just not going to happen. Streaming is giving us that venue to let them to do that. And
yeah, it's an in-between between the giant tentpole blockbuster and just the crap it out, whatever made for TV streaming.
Come on,
like somewhere in between.
Come on, Hallmark Channel. They've got 8 scripts, 17 actors, and 300 movies a year. They got to be doing something at this point. But yeah, it's I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of jealous of my kids, because they're going to be growing up in a world where streaming is becoming more and more prevalent. And they may even see the end of standard broadcast TV. Which,
oh geez, in our house we already have, because we don't have cable service. We used to have an antenna, we just got rid of it, so it's all streaming at this point.
Well, I mean, we have both cable TV and streaming, mainly because with Verizon it's honestly cheaper to have TV as part of the internet bundle, because we also have phones, so we can call internationally cheaper. If we took away the cable, I'd be paying more, so it's actually cheaper for us just to have the cable TV. But then we have all the different streaming services as well. So yeah, it's quite the age we live in. And yeah.
I remember watching Back to the Future too, where he's got the big TV with all the different channels on it. It's like, yeah, we're in the future now, man.
Yeah, picture in picture is becoming. I actually just saw a thing where someone has reprogrammed their smart TV so that they can display, I think it was 8 channels across and 5 channels down, so they could put 40 different streams coming in at once if they had enough connectors to bring all those separate streams in. And I'm like, it's the TVs can do it, so now we just got to get the hardware and the software meshing, and yeah, you'll be able to have 3-4 shows on at once. So yeah,
it's not that you'd want to, but you could.
Yeah, I sometimes get annoyed when there's TV's on, and then I got a kid with an iPad here, and I'm just like, one of these two has to get turned down, because my focus keeps jumping back and forth, and it's driving me insane.
Yeah, old men yelling at clouds.
I long for those days. I can't wait for it to happen. I know it's just around the corner. A couple of months from now, I'll be 50, and I'll be able to shake my fist at clouds, and people will be like, yeah, old man yells at cloud.
Yep.
Yeah. That'll be fun. So I think that kind of wraps up 60. What do you say?
Yeah, I think we're wrapped up.
So I'm sure there'll be some inserted information here and there throughout this, and
if not, why?
Yeah. And I'm sure there'll be some edits and some subtitles down below, because those are always fun for the video version.
Oh, Troy.
Yeah. And I think I solved the problem of it jumping full screen back and forth. So I think we're going to be kind of like this sort of format. Hopefully, fingers crossed, because God, Zoom keeps changing and updating their shit. So hopefully this works.
Yeah, the camera swaps with the duos is fun, but with the full quartet,
Yeah,
it's good to see the reaction.
sometimes it's it's nice to be able to see all four at the same time. So someone's speaking, you see that going, what?
Yeah.
Now
I'm bored. I'm leaving.
Yes, it's just doop, doop, doo, doo, doop, doop, doo. As long as I don't make a noise, the camera won't jump to me. Yeah. All right. So if you've been listening to podcast number 60 from us, congratulations. Holy shit, you made it all the way to 60 with us. That's great.
Yeah, you are a winner.
Yes. I don't know what you've won. It won't even be chicken dinner because I'm not buying you chicken dinner. Well, maybe except for Mare. Anyways, thanks for listening. And we will see you hopefully next week. Or you'll see us because we can't see you. Somehow this all works out.
It's weird, timey-wimey.
Yes. And hopefully there'll be some more stuff we can talk about. I probably will not be talking about Quantum Leap after this week because, I'm pretty much checked out. But I'm sure there's more stuff starting soon. And so I'm going to say goodnight, folks. And we're going to do a collective goodbye, just the two of us.
Let's do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Collective goodbye.
Not bad.
Too bad.
Yeah.
This has been Geeking Off the Page, a Planet Geek production. Please be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can find us at our social medias through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Search for Planet Geek Productions. On Instagram and Twitter, Planet Geek Pod. Or you can send us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. So until next bad time, same spider channel, may the force be with you, and thanks for tuning in.
Got it?
Mm-hmm. And let's see. Will this be an official episode? Will this be the 60th, or should we?
No, we're going to say it is, because screw those guys. This is episode number 60. Greetings, geeks, and welcome to episode number 60 of Geeking Off the Page.
Where are they on episode 60, by the way?
Nobody knows.
I think people should send in some hate mail. Anyways, I didn't say that. That was someone else said that. So,
probably cut it.
Yeah, probably. So